Hello everyone, you welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories in this edition of the news, contrary to facts and figures, streaming into our newsroom from the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, government says the situation is under control. This is contained in a release signed by Communication Minister and Government spokesperson Emmanuel, who also said that the national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement (CRM) political party was arrested and is being detained within the ambit of the law, contrary to information published by a United States or a European Union official calling for the release of Professor Maurice Kamto and other political leaders being held in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Also in this newscast, we shall hear Barrister Honorable Joseph Mbandam, who has criticized with very strong terms the National Assembly for failing to discuss the deepening Anglophone crisis for the past close to 3 years today. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the news on Equinox Television. I am Bablet Jonathan. The government of the Republic of Cameroon has said that the situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country is under control despite the deepening situation, and this is of course in sharp contrast to the facts and figures streaming into our newsroom from the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of the country. In a recent release, Communication Minister and Government spokesperson Emmanuel said the situation is under control, and also said the arrest and detention of Professor Maurice Kamto and other leaders of the CRM political party have been done within the strict ambits of the law. And this is of course a response to a recent statement by a European Union top official who called for the release of the political leaders. Details in this report by Sman Jigangebre.
After the outing of the European Union countries calling on Cameroon to address the ongoing crisis in the two Anglophone regions, blaming governments for not taking adequate measures, reasons why the crisis has continued to deteriorate, the government, through its spokesperson Emmanuel in a media release signed Monday, 11th of March 2019, has responded to the European Union countries, stating categorically that the acts of violence and violation of human rights are being perpetrated by a group of armed civilians who have decided to rain hell on its population by destroying public and social equipment, but blamed the so-called human rights defenders who give a little attention to it. The media release adds that the forces of law and order are assuring that these acts are stopped as they carry out their duty professionally. Emmanuel, however, reassures that the situation in the two English-speaking regions is under control and that things will return to normalcy soon. Another issue that was raised by the European Union was that of the unlawful arrest of Professor Maurice Kamto, leader of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, alongside some of his supporters. To this, Emmanuel said the arrest of Professor Maurice Kamto was in strict respect of the laws of the country and for the fact that he was accused of insurrection, hostility against the country, rebellion, and destruction of public properties. The military tribunal is the best place for him to be judged. About the hate speech, Emmanuel said Cameroon has been fighting for unity and the consolidation of national integration.
And the eldest member of Cameroon's lower house of parliament, Honorable Tanjong, has equally attributed the violence and the destruction going on in the northwest and southwest regions of the country to the pro-independence fighters. He was speaking today during the opening of the March session of Parliament at the Hemicycle in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Take a listen.
Did the patients men, women, and children of the hospital not have right to health, right to medical treatment, right to life, just as these other compatriots slaughtered, disemboweled, and maimed here and there in the name of a cause that still remains secret. To my knowledge, no state in the world would be complacent about such a barbaric act. It is no secret to everybody that the secessionists are committing violations of unrealizable magnitude, assassinations, arson, and forceful conscription of children, rape of young girls, abduction of school children, and
accusations and counter-accusations as the Anglophone crisis continues deepening, while the Yaoundé administration is accusing the pro-independence fighters in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. The population on the ground are speaking to us, accusing elements of the national armed forces with regards to the destruction going on in those parts of the country. And of course, it should be noted that as the situation continues deepening, after the governor of the southwest region, Benau Bilai, instructed civil servants in that administrative unit to return to their post of duty, or they will be considered as to have resigned. The senior division officer of the Libyalem division has also the senior division officer has also instructed civil servants in his administrative unit to return to work, or they will be sanctioned. In the meantime, Honorable Member of Cameroon's lower house of parliament, Joseph Mbandam, has criticized the National Assembly, notably the members of parliament, for failing to discuss the Anglophone crisis during the different parliamentary sessions. For the past 3 years, he was speaking to our reporters in Yaoundé today, shortly after the opening of the March session of parliament. Take a listen.
Many innocent souls have been killed over a period of 3 years. Why are we calling on the international community now? We, as the people's representative, how did we keep quiet over a period of 3 years, only to come now to make feeble calls on the international community? What have we not been able to do, and why could we not do it as a sovereign nation? And which international community will come and do what? What is he calling the international community to come and do? They want a peacekeeping force? Are we so weak and feeble that we cannot solve our own problems? I just hope that this parliament may be able to become more vigorous in looking for final solutions. Very important to fight corruption, but à quelle heure, as I say in French? Is it the dean has to speak now because Mebengo has been picked up? We started this Operation Sparrowhawk in 1997. We are coming back 22 years after to talk now that it must continue. How did it first happen, and why were they there? This government, the powers that be, put ministers to set themselves into competition on getting rich, and you allow them soak themselves into mud before you go and pick them and put in jail. We have more than a whole government in jail. The thieves are out there. Many have been reappointed into very higher posts of government.
And Honorable Joseph Mbandam also decried the fact that the Parliament has up to date failed to investigate or open inquiries into the alleged embezzlement of billions of francs CFA in connection to the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations that was to be hosted by Cameroon before the hosting rights were withdrawn from President Paul Biya's country.
I filed an application for a commission of inquiry on what happened that they withdrew ASCON from us. I have documentation which shows that the Mesasi Stadium, Olembe Stadium would have been built with 60 billion. Stadia of that nature have cost 60 billion. And a contract was awarded for 200 billion, not through a competition, but a hand-picked person and given for 200 billion. And people of that caliber have had a promotion in the appointment of the government. They moved from simple ministers to minister of state, those who awarded the contracts.
And still talking about corruption, the wife of Cameroon's former minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Bernadette Mebengo, has joined her husband in the Kondengi maximum security prison in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. She and her husband, alongside 3 of his former collaborators, were remanded into custody over the embezzlement of over 195 billion francs CFA, notably within the context of the purchase of military equipment from the Mark Force company between 2010 and 2014. His children are also implicated in the embezzlement case. And coming back to the Anglophone crisis that has continued, sending thousands, hundreds of thousands of persons out of their homes. Many of them are refugees in neighboring Nigeria, and some are internally displaced, living in difficult and even precarious living conditions in parts of the littoral, the west, the center, and other parts of the country. As you see in those images, those are some of the IDPs, hundreds of them who were receiving aid from a humanitarian organization yesterday in Bonaberi in the Douala for a subdivision. And the excerpt coming up next, take a listen to one of the IDPs and the humanitarian Belinda Babla of the Belinda Babla Foundation. Take a listen.
I'm from Kumba, Southwest region. I really want to say thank you for the things I've received here, because it has done a lot to me already. I'm so happy. I was like about to go to bed without something to eat, but I'm grateful to God for what she has just done to us. All thanks to her and to Almighty God for everything we've received.
Most of the IDPs that left the Northwest and that left the Southwest are in Douala. We're doing a food sustenance for them. As we heard, we have over 1,000 of them. So what we decided to do was to pair them in families, and we're giving them a bag of rice per family, we're giving them a bag of salt per family, we're giving them some savon per family, and we would strive to see that we get this done every 3 months, because would approximate that a bag would last a family for about 2 months. So we'll try every 2 to 3 months to do the drive until the crisis get resolved.
And as the situation continues deepening in the 2 Anglophone regions of the country, conveners of the Anglophone General Conference aimed at finding solutions to the crisis in the 2 Anglophone regions of the country are continuing with preparations ahead of that event that has already been postponed several times, because the government of the Republic of Cameroon is yet to give an authorization or to publicly demonstrate its support for that event, and the organizers sent a mission to North America and Europe to meet with other Anglophones in the diaspora, notably in view of getting their opinions and bringing them to take part in this meeting that is scheduled to take place in a date yet to be announced in the Southwest Regional Chief Town, Boya. With me is the spokesperson of the organizing committee of the Anglophone General Conference, Elie. You're just coming back from North America and Europe, where you met with some persons. Who did you meet and what was on the discussion table?
First of all, Babila, thank you for having me. Well, we went there. It was following the January 12th meeting that we had in Bamenda, where we agreed to do a kind of reorientation, and then we were delegated or designated to go there, myself and Dr. Wills Chiato, who is the executive president of the Cameroon Baptist Convention. It was that agreed, and it still continues, that we need to do a general and much more consolidated consultation of all the Cameroonians. That's the reason why we went to the United States, in North America and in Canada. In the United States, we met with all stakeholders. We met with the interim government, that is Sako Ikome. We met with the Kometa Elvis, Akwanga, anyway, all those who matter as far as restoration is concerned. You know, if you are looking for peace, you need to talk with everybody. And contrary...
what did they say? What were they saying?
First of all, I discovered that they have their heads solidly fixed on their shoulders, which are people who are reasoned, people who are willing to talk, contrary to the rumors being peddled around that they are warmongers. No, they are people who are ready and willing to talk. Nobody wants to have the current situation to continue. They are willing to talk, but those talks and dialogue will have everything put on the table.
So how soon should we expect the AGC to be coming up?
No, the AGC, after that, that's the first phase of consultations, when we met with people in the United States. In Europe, for example, in Europe, we did not only meet with, contrary to the views, meeting with only the Anglophones, we met with an organization which is predominantly Francophone in Germany, called Civil Engagement for Hamburg, which is a predominantly Francophone organization, but which had some Anglophones in it, in order to ask their opinion, because you cannot just come and organize something without having the opinion of people in the diaspora. You cannot pretend of doing something here without having their opinion. So we took all what they had proposed, and we are going to continue here to continue with the consultation, after which we are going to fix a date for a dialogue. You know, as the AGC is concerned, we are not a tribal or reactionary organization. We do not stoke ethnic rivalry. All what we want is, or nor are we opportunists. All what we want is to encourage peace and stability to return to the southern Cameroons, or what is currently known as the northwest and southern regions.
All right, so how soon should we be expecting the AGC?
The AGC will happen as soon as all the consultation of all the stakeholders of Cameroon is done. Once that is done, you can be certain that we are going to hold the AGC, and the first phase will be held here, come what may, because that is the only valuable thing that is on the table. We don't have any personal or collective ambition. The only ambition we have is peace.
All right, thanks, Elie, the spokesperson of the AGC organizing committee. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're going to be receiving a second guest in this newscast, and we're going to be taking a look at some legal issues, notably in connection to the arrest and detention of some political leaders, notably the president of the CRM political party, Professor Maurice Kamto, and other leaders of that political party, and even allies, and over 200 militants who were being detained. And out of the militants who were being detained, 11 of them have been declared not guilty, and 26 have been declared guilty of various charges. And the government of Cameroon says they were arrested and detained, and are being detained within the ambit of the law. But civil society organizations, political actors, legal minds, and even the international community have been calling for their liberation on grounds that the arrest and detention have been illegal. Barrister ACHU Emmanuel, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, televiewers. Good evening.
All right. What's your take about the arrest and detention of Professor Maurice Kamto, done within legal ambits or not?
Well, I don't know what you call legal ambits. What I know is Professor Maurice Kamto was on the 26th of January in the streets as the national president of MRC, the Cameroon Renaissance Party. He was staging a demonstration, a political demonstration, and asking for three things: no to electoral hold-up, no to the war in the English-speaking regions, and then no to the embezzlement of AFCON monies. So that is what I know he was out to do in the streets on that day. But he was rounded up with his militants, and we see them before the military court in Yaoundé and before the court of first instance for various offenses. So I think that we have to keep our heads cold. See, we have to stay within the ambits of the law.
The Under Secretary of State for African Affairs of the United States Department called for his release. The European Union called for his release, and the government reacted through the Minister of Communication and said they were arrested. All the laws were respected. All the laws of the land were respected in the arrest and detention.
Well, if we are talking about criminal justice, we'll certainly have to look at the provisions of the penal code. For any person to be arrested for any offense, there have to be two elements: the actus reus and the mens rea. That is the intention to commit the offense and the actual act that can be qualified as any offense. Listen to what Section 74 of our penal code provides. Criminal responsibility shall lie on him who intentionally commits each of the ingredients, acts, or omissions of an offense with the intention of causing the result which completes it, except as otherwise provided by law. No criminal liability shall arise from the result, though intended, of an omission. Except as otherwise provided by law, there shall be no criminal responsibility unless Section 2 of this section has been satisfied. That is, criminal responsibility shall lie on him who intentionally commits each of the ingredient acts or omissions of the offense with the intention of causing the result which completes it. Now, if you have to apply this section to the various offenses which the Commissioner of Government is charging these people with, you will see that it will not hold water anywhere. Let us take hostility to the state. People who go down to the streets to go say no to electoral hold-up, no to embezzlement of AFCON funds, no to war in Northern and South, have they left their homes with the intention of being hostile to the state? You see, if you apply just that one to this Article 74, you see that it cannot hold water. Now, you ask whether this was a political offense or it was a criminal offense.
Some destructions were done in some embassies of Cameroon, and these destructions have been attributed to those political leaders, even though they have rejected those.
Criminal liability is personal. Criminal liability is personal, and I think that those people in government know very well that you cannot charge somebody criminally with an offense that has been committed by another person, except they have the proof that somebody among the people who were marching was the intellectual author, the man who gave the orders. If they have that proof, there is no problem. Then they will have to bring the proof before the court to show that this man gave the orders. But if there can be no such proof, they have to, and even if that type of proof exists, it will be against one person, one or two persons, not the entire 270 something, who certainly were not all decision makers. Of that group, they were decision makers, but they were others just rank and file. So I was saying that if you look at it the other way around, a political party was seen in the street. They had their banners, they had everything. It was a political party. That political party is legalized. It is authorized to operate. Now, under Article 3 of the Constitution, political parties are authorized to carry out their activities. I am not talking about the right to demonstrate. I'm talking about political parties having the right under the Constitution, Article 3, to carry out their activities in compliance with the law. The problem here is that these people were in the street, and the law on public manifestations was not respected by them. That is the problem. Now, the problem I have with the prosecution here is that this law on public manifestation has, the public meetings, has a criminal provision which says that any offense to that law will be punishable under Article 231. I have the penal code here, 231 of the penal code, which punishes with an imprisonment of 15 days to 6 months. 6 months. Now, my big question is, will you put in prison people who have violated the provision of Article 231 of the penal code, whereas Article 350 sub 1 of the criminal procedure code provides that for an offense which is not punishable with imprisonment of more than 2 years, a person can stay in his house and ask that the court try him in his absence, and his lawyer will represent him.
Professor
So,
Maurice,
why do you keep them in prison,
Professor,
if all that they did was violate the law on public meetings?
Professor Maurice Kamto is a senior legal mind like yourself, and he probably masters all these things. And he said that they are political prisoners. Are they political prisoners?
I would agree that they are political prisoners, because it was a political party that I saw in the streets. You have to bring extra proof to show that at one time they crossed from being politicians to criminals. But while these people were on the streets, I did not see any destruction. They broke nothing, they destroyed no house, they killed no person, they did nothing, there was no criminal act. So MRC, right up to this moment, is still an authorized political party in Cameroon. So you cannot tell me that a political party that is authorized by the law to operate is in the streets, and then you start considering that type of party criminal. How is that? It doesn't hold water.
So are you calling for their release?
Wonderful. I have said so on several occasions, and I have said that the continuous detention of these people makes us look ridiculous in the eyes of the world. I've said so severally, because not only do we have proof that Mr. Kamto and his people were on the streets on a political mission, but we have proof that Mr. Kamto was the runner-up in the just ended presidential elections. It speaks very badly of Cameroon to have that type of person in prison for whatever offense that cannot be clearly defined as per the penal code. You say hostility to the nation. How hostile is it to the nation to ask that people who embezzle the funds of AFCON be brought to justice? How hostile to the nation is it for one to say that no to the war in the northwest and southwest regions? How hostile is it for one who has been beaten at the elections to start crying and say no to a electoral hold up? He has lost the election. And you cannot beat a child and stop him from crying. He lost the election and was crying in the streets. So, I mean, I don't see how hostile that is to the nation. So I think the prosecutors should come back to their senses. If they want to apply the law, let them apply the law correctly, because the law on political meetings has a criminal provision which says that any violation to that law should be punishable with a term of imprisonment of 15 days to 3 years. 2 years.
Senior Barrister ACHU Emmanuel Agbo, member of the Cameroon Bar Association and National President of Reform Political Party. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome, sir.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.